It's speeding up faster than anything you can imagine, and it seems to know it. This makes me uneasy because it feels like this idea is falling apart. The night sky is changing fast, and in the next few decades, maybe sooner, it might not look the same anymore. Experts like Neil deGrasse Tyson are worried, saying these changes are coming because Polaris is moving. Polaris, also known as the North Star, has been a reliable point in the sky for a long time, helping people like astronomers, sailors, and stargazers. But this might not last, which could change how we see the sky and explore space. For centuries, Polaris has been like a guide for sailors and astronomers. It's always been there in the sky, which is important for figuring out directions. But this might not be the case for too much longer. A study in September 2023 by the Royal Astronomical Society said that this star might not be around forever. It sounds like Polaris might be about to blow up and disappear, changing the sky as we know it. Before we think about what might happen, let's look at the star itself. Polaris is near the North Pole in the sky, right above the Earth's northernmost point. It doesn't move much in the sky and is part of the Little Dipper constellation. Polaris shines moderately and is a yellow-white supergiant star, which means it's bigger and brighter than our Sun. But Polaris isn't just one star. It's a system of 3 stars, Polaris A, Polaris B, and a third star orbiting them. How these stars pull on each other affects how they move and act, and any problems could make them change in brightness. But we don't know exactly how these forces work. Polaris is about 323 light-years away from us, so the light we see started its journey a long time ago. If Polaris exploded, we wouldn't see it for over 300 years. It might have already happened, but we don't know yet. The North Star has always been important for culture, navigation, and symbolism. Its steady spot in the sky has been a guide for sailors crossing oceans. Symbolically, Polaris has meant focus. For astronomers, it's been a reference point for studying stars that move. Its changes in brightness have been critical for understanding stars and measuring distances in space. Because it pulses in a predictable pattern, it seemed easy to understand, but lately Polaris has been acting differently. This strange, irregular behavior of pulsing has made astronomers take notice, which raised questions about why these problems appeared. Instead of pulsing normally, Polaris dims strangely, raising worries that the star may be dying. This is similar to other stars nearing their end. The gradual increase in Polaris's pulsation period, which was once steady, has been traced back to interactions within its star system. Over the past year, there has been an annual increase of approximately 4.5 seconds in pulsation period, which holds implications. Some astronomers guess that the pull between the stars in the Polaris system could be causing these changes, directly affecting its atmospheric conditions. Others worry that Polaris is about to explode. Polaris is acting like Betelgeuse, a star in the Orion constellation. Both stars sometimes change suddenly in brightness, raising worries that they might explode. Stars nearing the end of their lives often do this before dying. NASA is more concerned about Betelgeuse and has not shown the same concern for Polaris. When a star gets to the end of its life, it goes through phases like becoming a red giant and then explodes as a supernova. Because Polaris's pulses are irregular, scientists think it's running out of fuel, which happens to giant stars near the end. However, there's no real proof that it will explode as a supernova. Astronomers are watching to learn more about what will happen to Polaris. If Polaris exploded as a supernova, it would be amazing to see in the sky. It could be brighter than the moon and visible for weeks or months. It would change how we see constellations like the Big Dipper. Earth should be safe because Polaris is far away. While the explosion of Polaris might not be as spectacular as Betelgeuse's, it could still be easy to see for a while, outshining nearby stars. This would draw attention from astronomers and stargazers. However, it wouldn't affect Earth's environment too much. So what will happen to Polaris? After a possible supernova explosion, massive stars usually end their lives in a supernova, but this seems unlikely for Polaris. When a big star goes through a supernova, its core collapses, causing the star to fall apart. Polaris isn't big enough for that. Instead, when it runs out of fuel, it will shed its outer layers and turn into a white dwarf. It will eventually become a tiny stellar remnant. A white dwarf is the core of a small to medium-sized star that has run out of fuel, and despite its small size, roughly that of Earth, it still contains the mass of the Sun. After this change, we won't see Polaris as we do now. By comparing a possible explosion of Polaris to real supernova events, we can learn more about how stars change and die. Supernova events like SN 1987A, SN 2011FA, and SN 204J have given us data that help us predict what might happen to Polaris. SN 1354 resulted in the creation of the Crab Nebula, a cloud of material that continues to expand and emit energy across various wavelengths, which provides for rich study. Furthermore, SN 1987A, observed in the Large Magellanic Cloud, provided insight into nebula formation and radiation release. These findings will help us understand Polaris and what may happen to its nebula. Nebulae like the Crab Nebula form when the material from a supernova explosion interacts with gas and dust in space. This enriches the gas with heavy elements, which helps new stars form. Scientists are studying the material ejected during a potential Polaris explosion and comparing it to other supernova events. By analyzing light and remnants, they can predict a potential Polaris explosion. This will help determine whether Polaris's explosion could lead to nebula formation or impact stellar distributions. Another key study is examining the pulsations of stars nearing their end. By comparing Polaris with other supernova progenitors, astronomers hope to understand how stars explode. Despite detailed observations, experts still have questions about Polaris's strange behavior. Understanding what's behind these inconsistencies is important for improving our knowledge of evolving stars. The potential loss of Polaris as a reference point raises questions for research. Telescopes and measurements of distances would need adjustment, which would affect the accuracy of cosmic measurements. The disappearance of Polaris would also mess up navigation and cultural practices. The mysterious behavior of Polaris needs more focused research to try to resolve its irregular pulsations and discover its future. The disappearance of Polaris would affect different fields and cultural practices. One main result would be the need to readjust measurements. Since Polaris has been a way to measure distances, its vanishing would disrupt current models of the universe. Also, Polaris has always been important for navigation. If Polaris disappeared, it would create issues for navigation systems that use stars. This might be difficult in remote and rural areas where these other systems aren't used. Aside from practical issues, the importance of Polaris can't be ignored. For ancient groups, the North Star represented focus. If the star vanished, it would likely have emotional results on different communities, especially those who have associated the star with direction. The fading of Polaris also shows the ever-changing universe. Stars like Polaris go through stages, and their eventual death is part of space. Even though losing a reliable star might seem concerning, it reminds us of space processes, and just as stars are born and die, the sky is always changing. As we continue to watch the stars, what's happening with Polaris will likely give us information about the life cycle of stars. Despite the uncertainty of Polaris, it has been helpful for astronomers, sailors, and cultures. Whether it becomes a white dwarf or goes through another phase, its disappearance will mark the end of something. As we've seen with other events, new stars and discoveries will keep happening, providing humanity new info about the universe. While the changes happening with Polaris may be alarming, they will provide the exploration of stellar life cycles, and as we monitor Polaris, astronomers are thinking about the consequences Polaris changes may have on the understanding of the universe. The loss of a landmark will create a need to think differently about the fragility of cosmic measurements. The disappearance may also inspire exploration of motion and also relations between gravity and structure of the universe. We may need a deeper investigation of the intricate dance between bodies. Polaris, aka the North Star, might be about to do something crazy. For ages, it's been a reliable guide in the sky, but experts like Neil deGrasse Tyson are saying things are changing. Polaris might not stick around the way we expect it to. Yet Polaris, that star that's been a constant in the night sky for ever, might be getting ready to explode or fade away. This could totally mess up how we see the stars. For centuries, sailors and stargazers have used Polaris to find their way. But a report from the Royal Astronomical Society says this is all about to change. Polaris is acting weird and might disappear. Before we get ahead of ourselves, what's so special about Polaris? Well, it sits right above the North Pole, so it looks like it doesn't move. It's part of the Little Dipper. It's not super bright, and it's a yellow-white supergiant, way bigger and brighter than our sun. But here's a twist. Polaris isn't just one star. It's a triple star system. Polaris A and B are like a couple, with a third star hanging around. These stars pull on each other, which can change how bright they are. Scientists aren't totally sure how this all works. Polaris is super far away, about 323 light-years. That means if it blew up today, we wouldn't see it for over 300 years. It might have already happened. The North Star has always been important. Ancient sailors used it to navigate. It's a symbol of guidance. Astronomers use it to study other stars because it changes brightness in a regular pattern. But lately, Polaris's pattern has been off. Instead of its usual rhythm, Polaris is dimming. This has astronomers worried that it's nearing the end of its life. It's kind of like Betelgeuse, another star that's been acting strangely. NASA's more worried about Betelgeuse, but Polaris is getting attention too. Stars start acting weird before they die. They become red giants and then explode as supernovas. Scientists think Polaris might be running out of fuel. Over the past year, its pulse has been getting longer by about 4.5 seconds each year. That might not sound like much, but it's a big deal for a star. Some think the other stars in the Polaris system are messing with it. Others worry it's about to blow. If Polaris did explode, it would be super bright, maybe even brighter than the moon. But don't worry, Earth would be safe because it's so far away. So what happens to Polaris after all this? Well, it's probably not big enough to go supernova. Instead, it'll probably shed its outer layers and become a white dwarf, a small, dense star. We wouldn't see Polaris anymore. Scientists are comparing Polaris to other stars that have exploded to figure out what might happen. Supernovas like SN 1987A and SN 2011FA have taught us a lot. For example, SN 1354 created the Crab Nebula, a cloud of gas that's still expanding. These explosions throw gas and dust into space, which helps create new stars. They also release a lot of energy. By studying these events, scientists can learn more about Polaris. Right now, scientists are still trying to figure out why Polaris is acting so weird. It's a puzzle. Understanding this could help us learn a lot about how stars live and die. If Polaris disappears, it would be a big deal for astronomers. They'd have to recalibrate their telescopes and find a new way to measure distances in space. It would also mess with navigation systems and change the way we think about the night sky. Polaris has always been a symbol of constancy, so its loss would be emotional for many people. But the universe is always changing. Stars are born and die all the time. The changes with Polaris are a reminder of that. By studying Polaris, we can learn more about how stars evolve and how the universe works. Even though it's a little unsettling, Polaris's changes give scientists a chance to learn. The future of Polaris is uncertain, but the study of it is pretty exciting. If Polaris stops being a reliable point of reference, we'll have to adjust everything. We'll need new ways to measure space. It could also completely rewrite the stories that people tell about the stars. If the star were to fade from view or dramatically change, it would alter the way various communities interact with the night sky and how hope is given or observed.